video is for anyone who was or still is being treated special, or just anyone who wants to gain a new perspective, because there are many traps that you can fall into, but also through a few realizations, benefits that you can pull out of it. And as with anything, there are two sides to it, not just victims. So I really want to share my experience as someone who went through a lot of situations like this and give you practical tips as I learned how to equip my mind against these and build on it. And there are a lot of ways and questions, and the problem is being treated special in school or anywhere else. You always start with the question, okay, why me? You know, like, at least when I get bullied even just a little bit more than other people, why did they pick me? You know, like, I had to do something wrong. It has to do something with me. And the answer to that would be, it's always a lot of chaos. It's like a chain reaction where getting to the beginning is very difficult, but you also can't get out of that chain, because in every normal life situation you will be like, okay, I'm just not gonna meet these guys anymore. But in school, for example, you're forced, right? So you have to, force this chain into deeper and deeper chains, because it's everyday repetition. And then you ask, okay, why me? So for me, for example, it was already starting, in elementary school, because I was just the smallest kid, and it was probably the easiest route, to feel strength, to feel strong, and to feel, control. And there are a lot of other patterns than being bullied. I want to get into a lot of different things, many things that people don't even realize. So this is how the chain starts, right? It can also be just a comment and you react, just don't react, and then people get mad, and then they get their friends. Like, the beginning can be so random and has nothing to do with you. It can just be something funny or whatever. And this was for me the case in elementary school, but also going into 5th and 6th grade. But also 5th and 6th grade was more like, okay, now I have to play the clown, get some attention, and because maybe that way it's more cool and it's more social. But it's the next thing. If you always get brainwashed into, oh, you're so special, you are always acting shit, you're automatically gonna behave more in that direction. So you get brainwashed into a behavior that gets more and more extreme. And why does this chain continue? Because, groups are the most evolutionary thing. Being in a group also means attacking in a group, and being isolated is, evolutionary panic of, not belonging, no safety, basically. And also in school, everything gets, equal, flattened out. You are too loud, you are too quiet. While presenting, you shouldn't move across the stage. Steve Jobs walked a fucking marathon on stage, but the school principals don't have any proof of concept, and everybody gets, formed into one. Asking teachers or other like school people for help, it doesn't work. Being kind doesn't work, because it wasn't the reason why it got, why you are still being bullied. You can't, change the psychological behavior of grouping. And with teachers the same. If you, for me in 2nd grade, my teacher would take my entire backpack and, put it all over the table because it was messy and stuff, in front of the entire class. And I had to apologize for sitting next to 2 other people because, I'm so weird and stuff. So this is not something unusual. I'm pretty sure, like, I'm not in the 5% that this happens to. Just as an example for this being nice thing, I repeated class after 6th grade, and I helped a guy who struggled in French, because I already, got a year into that, and it was the first year in French, and he still hit me in my head because I was, the guy who was easy to hit, and he would look cool in front of other people. And teachers, of course, they noticed this. teachers notice, okay, this is the kid, kind of the trouble guy, you know, you kind of have already someone in mind, he either gets a lot of trouble, makes a lot of trouble, and then they tend to be more like, okay, they don't want to risk, you know, doing anything wrong. They want to do their job in a good way that they minimize the risk of doing any harm to students. So of course they want to help, but this help oftentimes, even if they have good intentions, is super harmful, because then you go to the kid and you say, oh, you need special help, and or go to a special school, and you get put in that special category. One teacher was asking me almost daily if I'm fine, like I'm suicidal, or like I'm super depressed. And this consistent asking, or even this treating, if you say, okay, this guy is the class clown, you always, you basically brainwash it deeper into that behavior. You know, the teachers just want to, for example, a girl who thinks she's a boy, and you have exchange students, right? The teachers put her with another girl who thinks she's a boy from another country. This is like putting the two black people, like even if you, not only you let her stay in that bubble of the same brainwash, but also you say you are special, you are, you know, you need special this and that, and this is like, you know, or like you're saying, in companies we need these types of people to have like a certain percentage, you know, instead of treating everybody the same and human. So when I repeated class, right, like now I'm really in trouble. Now they have a more real reason to keep bullying me, and now I repeated class. But behind every one of these, and there's some benefits in this, you pull a lot of strength. After that first, you know, I was like more confident, not only because I was in a new class where I was kind of more, you know, older than the others, but also it's kind of when you go through shit, you become more confident, of course. But also now I was in so much like, uh, you know, social density that I didn't care about the social pressure, and I was just like, okay, like let's make a YouTube channel now, you know, with 12. And this was kind of like, it's already everything fucked, like I have nothing to lose. So it was a major change for me, and in hindsight, I profited a lot. You know, there were attacks from many sides. Uh, my sister has some issues too, and then my, like, people from school that I barely knew would be like, oh, the entire family is weird, the entire family, you are also weird, you know, like, this one thing was like this, getting put into a bucket of like, look, this is your family, you are weird too, you are weird. One, this brainwash, and the other was, oh, you repeated class, now you have a reason, and now you started the YouTube channel, now we have even more reasons. And it's not bad, you know, like I enjoyed my YouTube videos being played in class, it was funny, but it also had a lot of, you know, um, I had this, were like basically all a lot of spots where people could attack me on, you know, like asking me YouTube videos, joking. And it's funny if you hear this once or twice a day, maybe. You know, but for me, it was like actually daily, like from all the free, you know, like probably 200-300 people across different, you know, but this one thing. And then when I repeated for the second time, you know, before that, of course, I still hadn't worked out, and I still got bullied because it was easy, people making a show. But then I repeated the second time in ninth grade. After ninth grade, second time ninth grade. And for that, like again, now you have even more reasons. So I believe working out, I started working out after that. And I believe that working out is not, you're not protecting against the bullying because of your muscle, but the confidence and not reacting impulsively, and that all together just helped me a lot to get out of there and just more, you know, a clear mind. But then again, like I was um this entire bullying this time uh again, like from people that were basically 2 years younger than me, after not in my class, but basically, you know, from the other classes in the same age. The problem is also it's gonna get harder to criticize because people are now transforming people's decisions into identities. You don't choose to be the opposite gender. It's now your identity. You are not trolling in class. You are a clown. One guy knew me, maybe family, maybe because I repeated the second or first or second time, maybe from the YouTube channels. But this all gave me the strength to say, okay, I'm already cooked socially. So, like I could completely focus on the business, completely ignore them, and ignoring didn't work. If anybody says, or just ignore, yeah, it kind of works short term to, not get the impulses out, but they are still gonna keep going. It's just easy bread, Human behavior doesn't change. But this let me work on my business and focus on school, not like I had nothing socially, so I would just focus on that. And it also gave me motivation of like, okay, here in school I'm forced to be here with you, but when I'm at home I'm gonna be more disciplined. What you always have to tell yourself is that, like I explained in the beginning, that this is not really something that you are the reason for, and also that it keeps going. And you just have to tell yourself, these guys barely know me. This is just a chain reaction caused by random stuff, and these guys barely know me. These guys are just doing that. You kind of have to understand why they are doing that. Really go through it in your brain, and that you have no hate towards them, because this is like another hate trap, right? That I talked about in another video. And otherwise, this behavior gets to your head, and if people, call you weird long enough, you start behaving even more weird, and you kind of become addicted to being hated. Like all this attention can be addictive. It's dopamine at the end. And this happened to me for a short time before I realized it. These people calling me weird and like making weird, saying I'm weird, so I'm gonna behave that way, and then give them a reason to hate me. And then I just trying to stay calm, staying friendly, and you also look at it not like, oh, I'm getting bullied. Just say, okay, these guys are bullying me. It's their actions. I have nothing to do with it. It's their life decisions and their life. Like, it doesn't have to affect my life at all. It has nothing to do with me. It's not my actions. It's not what I earned or deserve. But this is a big thing. Don't try to start acting weird. If people, treat you weird, don't all of a sudden just try to get the most hate out of everyone, starting to make weird sounds and starting to move in a weird way, starting to look weird, starting to say weird things on purpose, starting to, polarize and stuff. So that's very important, if people call you certain mentally problemed and stuff, you're gonna start behaving in that way. It's like kind of people call you something until you really are something. And for the teachers, they go home thinking, oh, I've done a good job. I've put these two girls that think they are boys both in the same group. He's like, oh, I've done a good job. I'm a hero. We kind of made it socially easy to become a hero because you don't have to think through it. They are just social concepts being pro-war, but it's not your children that are. So he wants to also take the least risk possible. So he is just, oh, I'm gonna put these both in a group. He thinks he does a good job, but it has the exact opposite effect. Teachers get their awards, parents can feel like heroic, and you go to the ground. Same when I was playing the class ground. Oh, you're so funny, you're the funny guy, ha ha ha. Nobody taught me I'm fat. Nobody taught me that it's completely weird. Nobody taught me that that I'm good enough without making a clown. So definitely be careful, because if it's really your decision or just a reaction because other people brainwashed you for a reaction or anti-reaction, it can alter your entire life. But you already know how cooked everything is through that experiences, So you already have an advantage also. And most of these bullying behaviors are only in groups. Every time I, saw one of these guys, and it was a lot, I was getting almost hits on my head like daily. And it was so bad that actually people, when people just called my name, I would, go like this, because I would, okay, now I'm gonna get hit in the head again. And I couldn't even tell the difference anymore between people saying my name and greeting me out of like really kindness or out of like trolling, oh, haha. Like I wasn't even sure. So I was kind of like already socially completely distant from anything. Like really people that maybe even had like good intentions. That's also where, you know, the differences between a nice guy and a good guy. One teacher was actually very helpful. He really tried to help. He was like, do you need help with your screen time and stuff while we were traveling, you know? Not just fighting the symptoms of like, oh, you can't focus in school, you know? I was doing for 2 years in a course or 1 year of like, oh, how to focus better on your task in school. I was going there like really every week, 1 hour, because I couldn't focus. But, you know, it was like more of a symptom. And the nice guy would say, oh yeah, that's the problem. You're just a little, you know, or like, you know, being nice, really wanting to play the hero. I support you, you know, people cheering when you lose yourself instead of actually being honest. And how can you help, you know, the example with the teacher and people saying, oh, weird stuff. The problem with this cheering is too that what are you doing when the music stops? You are in school, everybody's pushing you, confirming you, it's right what you do, everybody's celebrating, but because everybody has to be there, right? So what are you doing when school ends, when you are alone for yourself and all your thoughts, you know? Like you have to, that's why you need good guys, not the nice guys that get along and say yes and yoo-hoo to everything. Imagine calling someone who learns a lot in second grade a nerd or a loser. He's always gonna be in that identity, and like for his classmates, and like he got a personality through that. Same with anything else, you know. Now they feel special. Now they have finally something that they are not a nobody anymore. So I'm just, you know, making myself aware that I can trust myself with my instincts, and you know that everything is like automatically fine, and that I don't anticipate like any hits on my head, you know, just letting it happen, that it's my decision to stay peaceful and not have any hate. And my mother later told me that she also told, you know, teachers while I was in school, you know, during my school time, often, you know, that she thinks I have like a certain, it was a lot of different things like mental problems. And then I always wondered, you know, why are teachers treating me so differently? This is one effect. The other effect is, of course, this brainwashed into this deeper behavior that I talked about. The other thing is the trouble. So this I kinda equipped my mind in a way with that I always looked at it like a third person. So when the teacher would say like, oh, everything fine at home, talking to me like I'm special in like this certain tone, you know what I'm talking about? It's like, oh, yeah. And then, did you really understand the task that I gave you? And, oh, we're gonna look for your stuff, very special. So I got into a third perspective and always, you know, saw it like the conversation from a third perspective and not like they are humiliating me. This was even with my doctor, you know, oh, you made it on time. Or like, because it's always like, oh yeah, he's a little special. And especially getting like school help and getting like authorities sometimes makes it even worse because it just gets more attention. What I always did for that after these situations, because some people have good intentions for that, but it's still affecting your brain and causing this downward spiral. So I wrote down the situations after they happened and analyzed them and thought, okay, did I really do something wrong? Did I really, you know? And then after a certain time, you realize that it's just people that are trying to play hero and then discrediting, you know, the easy way, saying, oh, your perception is off. It seems like it's always an explanation. If you're just doing something different than others, you know, I noticed this even in class where boys who wanted better grades or had better grades were starting to act more feminine, because this is also one of these things, you know, where teachers are automatically like, oh, the boys, especially when you focus as a doctor or like a parent is always on these mental things, then it's more likely to give like more exaggerated, you know, diagnosis. For example, nobody says, oh guys, I'm outing myself, I'm not gay, you know. Like, nobody says that. You know, my mother was saying, okay, you have autism, we're gonna get you certified, and then you have these special rights, and you can be the first autistic, whatever. But you know, like the real game and actually talking to people like with everybody else is like, if somebody is sick and you treat him sick, you know, it's just gonna make things worse. It's the same effect. And I like, as long as you're not, you know, as long as you're still behind me, it's everything good. Like, stay in your little world, you know. I want to leave you with the most important message of this video. It's what directors call a book ending, where the beginning and the end seem the same, like nothing changed. But if you look closely, everything changed. So I was getting bullied in 5th and 6th grade, but also in my last 2 years. The hits didn't stop, the putting my things away didn't stop, the comments didn't stop. In fact, it got worse. You know, I didn't give a fuck at all anymore because it was already like, and I went viral with one of my dropshipping products where I showed my face, and 20 million views. Everybody saw that video, like every student in Germany who had like TikTok, all that target audience, and that channel made me 2K in the last 30 days. All the same conditions, sometimes even worse, but I equipped my mind better, and even if you see no purpose in it, it's always gonna, there's always gonna be a purpose, even if you don't see it yet.